In this video, we're going to take a look at exam revision for powers and roots. So we're just going to take a look at some exam style questions, so let's just jump straight into it. So there's 3 questions here that we'll work through together. So for the first one here, it says work out 3 to the power of 3. So anything to the power of 3, we call this cubed. So this is 3 cubed. So 3 cubed here, well, for powers like this, what this is telling us is we take the number that we're working with here, what we call the base, so this is 3, and then we times it by 3, and then we times it by 3 again, because it's to the power of 3. So that's 3 times by 3 times by 3 again. If it was 3 to the power of 4, we'd times it by 3 one more time. If it was 3 squared, then it would just be 3 times by 3. Okay? So remember, the power tells you how many times you need to multiply it by itself. So in that case, let's just evaluate this multiplication here. Well, 3 times by 3, that would give me 9. And then we need to times that by 3. So this is the same as 9 times by 3. And 9 times by 3, well, nice and straightforward, hopefully 9, 18, 27 there. Okay, so we get 27 there, and that tells us that 3 cubed is equal to 27. Okay, so that's our solution to the first question. Let's take a look at this one here then, where it says write down the value of 2 to the power of 4. Well, 2 to the power of 4 here, again, just using this same idea. This is telling us that we start with the base here of 2, and we times it by 2, times it by 2 again, and then finally, because it's to the power of 4, we do that one more time. Okay, so I've got 2 times by 2 times by 2 times by 2 again. So there we go. And we need to evaluate this now. So 2 times by 2 is 4. That's the same as 4 times by 2 times by 2. 4 times by 2 is 8. So it's the same as 8 times by 2. And 8 times by 2, that gives me 16. Okay, so therefore 2 to the power of 4 is equal to 16. Okay, and that's our solution to that question there. Moving on to the final one on this page then, we're asked to write down the value of 5 to the power of 3. So this should hopefully become quite straightforward at this point. So 5 to the power of 3. Well, we start with our base here of 5, times it by 5, that would be 5 squared. And then because it's 5 to the power of 3, 5 cubed, we times it by 5 one more time. Well, let's evaluate this multiplication here now. So 5 times by 5, that would give me 25. So this is the same as 25 times by 5. And then 25 times by 5, that would give me 125 there. Okay. And there we have it. So that's our solution to question 1, question 2, and then finally 5 cubed is equal to 125 there. Okay. Giving us the solution to the last question on this page. Moving on to a few more questions now, what we're taking a look at here is the root of a number. So let's start with the first one here. We're looking for the square root of 36. So for the square root, we use this notation here. Okay, so this would be the square root of 100. So I want the square root of 36. We'd write that like so. Okay, so this represents the square root of 36. Now the square root of a number, what this is asking us to do basically is find what number do I times by itself again to get 36. Well, let's just start with 1 here. So 1 times by itself again. So 1 times by 1, well, that would give me 1. So it won't be 1. So we just keep going now until we get to 36. So 2 times by 2, well, that would give me 4. So it's not 2 here. Keep going. So 3 times by 3, that would give me 9. 4 times by 4, that would give me 16. 5 times by 5, that would give me 25. So we're pretty close here. Let's keep going. 6 times by 6, that would give me 36 there. Okay, notice this is the number that we want here, square root of 36. So in that case, what that means then is the square root of 36 is this number here, 6. That's the number that we times by itself again to get 36. So the square root of 36 is equal to 6. Okay. Now just a quick point to make here, because it will come up on the next set of questions, is that these numbers here, so 1, 4, 9, 16, these are what we call square numbers. Okay. So these are square numbers. Okay. And this is something that you need to be familiar with. Okay. So try and remember these. If you can't remember them, then just remember that you can easily work them out by doing 1 times by 1, 2 times by 2, and so on. Let's take a look then at the square root of 100 here. So write in the value of the square root of 100. Same idea again. So we're looking for the square root of 100. Well, again, same idea here. We just need to keep going. Now we've already done up to 6 times by 6 here, so 6 squared. Now if we keep going then, 7 times by 7, that would give me 49. So it's not 7. Let's keep going. 8 times by 8, that would give me 64. 9 times by 9, that would give me 81. So finally, if I do 10 times by 10 here, this would give me 100. Okay, and notice that's the number we want here. So in that case, the square root of 100, that must be 10. What number do I times by itself again to get 100? Well, that is 10 there. Okay, and that gives us the solution to the second one. And finally, let's take a look at this one here now, which is ever so slightly different. And what you might notice is we have this little 3 here next to our root. And what this is telling us is we're not looking for the square root now, we're looking for the cube root here. Okay, so this is the cube root. Okay, so this is the cube root of 64. So how do we find the cube root? Well, for the square root, remember, we looked for what number do we times by itself again to get that number. In this case now, we repeat this, but rather than just times it by itself again, we times it by itself and then times it by itself one more time. Okay, so again, same idea here. Let's start with 1. So 1 times by 1 times by 1 again. Well, that would give me 1. So it's not 1. So we now move to 2. So 2 times by 2 times by 2 again. Well, this would give us 2 times 2, which is 4, times it by 2, that is 8. Let's keep going. 3 times by 3 times by 3. Well, 3 times 3 is 9. Times that by 3, that would give me 27. Okay, so it's not 3, we need 64. So let's keep going. 4 times by 4 times by 4 again. Well, 4 times 4 is 16. Times that by 4 again, that would give me 64 there. Okay, so notice that's the number we need. So in that case, the cube root of 64, so remember that's just a little root here with a 3 next to it. So the cube root of 64 is equal to 4 there. Okay, and that gives us the solution to our final question. And finally, moving on to the last 2 questions here, what I've got now is a list of numbers, which we can see here. And from this list, what I want to do is write down all the numbers that are powers of 3. So when we talk about powers of 3, what we meant is when we're doing 3 to the 1, 3 squared, so that would be 3 times 3, and so on. Okay, so let's evaluate these here. So 3 to the 1, that is just simply 3. And from our list here, we can see 3. So that's the first one there. I've kind of scribbled it out a little bit, but 3 there, we'll give that a tick. Okay, 3 squared, so the next one is 3 times 3, so that's 9. So have we got a 9 here? 6, 9, perfect. We've got a 9, so we'll include that. Keep going here, I've got 15, so let's just keep going down our powers. So 3 to the power of 3, well, that's 3 times by 3 times by 3 again, which is the same as 9 times by 3, so that would give me 27. Okay, that would give me 27 here, perfect. We highlight that or circle it. And my last number here is 33. Now, if I do 3 to the power of 4, so 3 to the power of 4, that's the same as 27 times 3. Okay, and this will definitely be bigger than 33. Even 27 times 2, that's 54, which is bigger than our last number here. So that means we're finished here. We have no more numbers. So if we just write down all the numbers that we've highlighted here, so we had 3, 9, and 27 there. Okay, so those are the numbers that are powers of 3. So that's our solution to that question. And if we take a look at the very last question here, again, we've got a list of numbers, and from this list, I want to identify all square numbers. Now remember, for square numbers, what we do is we start with 1 here and we times it by itself again. So 1 times by 1. So that would give me 1. What we'll do is we'll do a few more of these and then we'll see if we can identify which ones belong to this list. So 2 times by 2, that would give me 4. 3 times by 3, that would give me 9. 4 times 4, that would give me 16. 5 times by 5, that would give me 25. So let's just stop there for now. Can we identify these numbers here on the right? So these are square numbers, so can we identify those from our list? Well, I've got a 3 here, that's not a square number, so we don't include that. I've got 9 here, well, 9 is a square number, so we include 9. 13, well, that's not a square number, so no. 16, yep, that's a square number here, so we include that. We've got 25 here, 5 times 5 is 25, so perfect. But I've got two more numbers here. So I've got 48 and 100. So let's just keep going, see if we can find the last two here, or whether those last two numbers are square numbers. So 6 times by 6, that would give me 36. 7 times 7, that would give me 49. So that's very close to 48, but it isn't a square number, 48. Okay, if it were 49, we'd highlight that, but it's 48, so we don't. Let's keep going. 8 times by 8, that's 64. 9 times by 9 is 81. And finally, 10 times by 10 here is 100. And we do have 100 here, so we take that as well. So now let's identify all the square numbers here. So square numbers, let's just highlight those. We just make note here. We've got 9, 16, 25, and 100 there. Okay, and there we have it. So that gives us the solution to the last question, and that brings us to the end of this video. In the next video, we're going to take a look at the order of operations.